There's something intrinsically engaging about archaeology, about finding a fragment, a material fragment, noticing it, and recognizing that it belonged to someone and it's part of a puzzle that tells us about human history. I'm Uzi Baram, professor of anthropology, and I'll be teaching Introduction to Archaeology in fall 2022. And for this mini class, I'm going to give you some snapshots of current themes in archaeology. Introduction to Archaeology is very much part of anthropology, anthropology being the study of human variation across all space and time. Anthropology is a four-field endeavor, and archaeology is one of those four fields, and it tends to focus on three aspects for the anthropological goal: material culture, social change, and human history. And in thinking about human history, archaeology takes really grandiose view of 150,000 years or more of human history. And its anthropological goal, as the line on the slide shows, archaeologists have the most unlikely task of saving the lives of people who have passed. Those fragments, those material fragments, are sometimes all we have for people who lived lives in the past. This course goes through some key issues for archaeology today. We'll be using a relatively short book, Bigger Than History, that lays out themes for identity, for climate change, for ethics and heritage. Over the semester, we'll have some hands-on projects. We'll be using the resources at the Public Archaeology Lab for flint knapping, adult throwing, making cordage out of Spanish moss, and other kind of hands-on to have a sense of how people did things in the pre-industrial age. And the majority of the course will be a survey of that long span of human history. And for this semester, we'll be using a book that came out recently, The Dawn of Everything. And I do want to warn you, it's a hefty tome at 700 pages. The audio book is listed as 24 hours. It gives an interpretation based on an organization of recent archaeological findings that really get at the heart of how to understand social inequalities. Over the semester, what I'll ask of you is one, that you attend the course and participate in discussions and in the activities. You'll have a midterm exam, you'll have a final exam, and a project based on those hands-on activities. We'll be looking at archaeology not as it's been, but how it is now, and some of the real kind of fascinating dynamics. Whitney Bader-Baptiste lays out that the future of archaeology is anti-racist. The Seminole Tribe of Florida has a tribal historic preservation office focused on archaeology and heritage. It's part of a real growth of indigenous archaeology. And you'll find that archaeologists really want to be meaningful. They want to contribute. While there's an excitement about finding things and organizing histories, it's also to address current challenges, particularly climate change. And as the poster shows, ask us about climate adaptations. We have thousands of years of experience. I'll lay out what is possible from archaeology as it's being formulated today. I always situate my courses in the present and what's going on, and I can't teach on archaeology without talking about some of the famous fictional archaeologists, right? Indiana Jones, Lara Croft, Jean-Luc Picard, and we'll critique, of course, some of the simplifications there, but also ask, what is it about these characters that draws so much attention, and how can archaeologists use that fervor of interest to lay out the scientific and empirical evidence from the subfield of anthropology. We will meet some of the, what I refer to on the slide as scholarly archaeologists, right? They're real archaeologists, both those who created the field, and most histories of archaeology start about 150 years ago with real growth in the mid-20th century, and you get to meet, through their scholarship and through discussion, some of the interesting archaeologists today who are pushing the envelope about what's possible and what we can be doing, as well as having made some really significant contributions. You see some of those people there, and you'll get to know them over the semester. As an introductory course, I'll make sure you have a foundation in methods and techniques, right? excavations, lab work, some of the interesting ways that these things that are taken out of the ground can be understood and interpreted as well as analyzed. We're not going to spend a lot of time with digging because, as the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon makes point, the digging itself is not terribly interesting. I mean, we will be seeing lots of examples of excavations. It's the theories that make that work important, meaningful, and engaging. And as we work through theoretical concerns, I will ensure that you also have a good sense of current ethics in archaeology, including protecting cultural resources and the legislation such as NAGPRA that ensure that descendants of those being studied have the rights to their ancestors' material remains. As an anthropological course, will be comparative. I'm going to go around the world briefly and virtually to lots of these archaeological places, and we'll see what they look like as they've been excavated. We'll look at how they've been reconstructed and think about what's possible if we put humans into these places walking around and what it tells us about human history as well as about social change and human diversity. We'll look at things, belongings, what are typically called artifacts, which I tend to refer to as material culture, and we'll think through how they're meaningful and how archaeologists look at these things as belongings to connect them to people and ultimately to how they can contribute to understanding human history. I often think about why should people take this course? Well, it's introductory, so there's no barriers to attendance. If you're interested in anthropology, Introduction to Archaeology is a requirement for the AOC. If you're going through the Chart Your Own course, this course will give you civic engagement and knowledge. You'll see critical thinking and ethical reasoning. I am enamored with material culture, and so we'll spend time thinking about the study of material culture. If you're looking for some hands-on activities, that's going to be integrated into the course. I do think it's useful to situate human history not in terms of our own lifetimes or that of our immediate ancestors, but going back as far as Homo sapiens sapiens go, and that's that 150,000 plus years. Over the semester, particularly the second 2/3 of it, through the dawn of everything, you'll be able to explore a sustained argument about human equalities, and hopefully that's a useful endeavor. It is one that comes out of anarchism, but I think we'll be able to see how it intertwines into intellectual thought in so many interesting ways. And as we do theory, as we do ethics, as we do techniques and methods, my goal is to give you the foundation for advancing research on artifacts and material culture, on archaeological and historic sites, and on human diversity. It's an introductory course. I feel an obligation to tell you some of the bad jokes of archaeology. Oh, my goodness, there are so many bad jokes surrounding archaeology. You saw the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon already. Don't take the course for the jokes. I'm not that good of a comedian. If Introduction of Archaeology, as I presented it through these snapshots on current archaeology, is of interest, please look for the syllabus that will be available before the semester begins on Canvas and on my website. And I look forward to seeing some of you in the beginning of the fall. Thank you for listening. I would really appreciate it.